Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
A quick plug here, patreon.com/E1M1. Behind the scenes, early access, all that great stuff. $5 a month. Go check that page out there for all the shows and all the descriptions and all that. It's only $5 a month, not per week, not per episode. So it's a really great. I think we put out at least 8 or so episodes a month. So you're getting some pretty great stuff over there at patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
So I actually managed to get a decent amount of games in,
Oh, nice.
which is surprised me as much as anyone else. So first off, I continued playing Wantless.
Oh, yeah.
I am around 50 hours in, and I am now taking a break from Wantless.
Okay.
I was at this point. I was like, man, how long does this game go? Like, I can see it seems like I got a long time, and I was like. I found a Reddit where someone had posted where they'd beat the boss and their character had like 10,000 hit points or something,
Oh,
and
jeez.
I am not near that, so I got a ways to go. So I'm kind of taking a break. Like it's a very grindy game,
Mm-hmm.
and I still like it quite a bit. I am just now wishing it was much shorter.
Yeah.
But those if you hopefully you've been listening to the podcast, but each kind of patient you treat in Wantless. These tactics maps are generally like 10 to 20 minutes, like to play through.
Mm.
Um, the part that is really good but also gets a little tedious is you have to constantly kind of remake and upgrade your skills. Um,
Oh, right. I think we were talking about that last month of how you kind of craft
yeah,
skills.
like it's a really cool thing because your skills are kind of like you have equipment that you equip, but in a way, it's almost just like your equipment that you're managing on your character because you have like a grid pattern where it hits and what it goes after and a distance and kind of the different elemental effects and the elements in this game are all kind of crazy. Like my favorite to make use of is called Fear, where if you hit an enemy with it every action point you spend each round will cause damage to that enemy that you've infected
Oh,
with fear.
wow. Okay, that sounds
Um,
super strong.
yeah, it's they have a bunch of really unique kind of things like that. There's no, I guess they do have a poison. I was about to say there's no poison, but they do have a poison. But like they don't have like ice and fire or
All right,
anything
here's
like
my
that.
earth
It's all
spell.
yeah,
Right.
it's all weird stuff like that.
That's cool.
And I don't remember what most of them do at this point, but I still like this game quite a bit. I gotta put it on pause, man. Like I've reached a point where I can equip more effects in my skills, but my character's level isn't high enough that like I can like each skill takes up a. I wish I remember what the bar call. Like you have a each skill's worth a certain amount of points, and you can only equip a certain amount of points in skills.
Oh,
So
right.
like equipping that third skill puts me over in almost every skill that I've unlocked that for.
Mm.
It's gonna take a little bit more time. But I've unlocked like I don't know 6 or 7 different locations, and all the different locations have different unique patients that show up, and some of them are unique patients from other areas, assuming that you helped them in those other areas. Um, if you didn't, like, you can still go back and do it. It just means they aren't appearing in the new area yet.
Right.
But it's still a pretty cool, ethically murky game because you're curing people of their wants.
Right.
Uh, but
That's
anyway,
Wantless
it's
at World's End, I think is the subtitle, right?
Solace at World's End.
Solace at World's End. There we go. I always forget one word in there.
Yeah, very long title.
Yeah.
It's the thread at the Reddit for it doesn't seem too active, but I'd really like this developer to do well. Like I'm hoping I really think it'll do well if they release it on consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Especially Switch for a turn-based game like that. I feel like that genre does really well on Switch.
Man, it's a really good sit in bed and play it game.
Yeah. Yep.
Like the controls aren't even perfect for Steam Deck, and I've put 50 hours into it, so I feel like that's saying
Right.
something. Uh,
Right.
let's see. So after last podcast, I decided I needed to go back to Vampire Survivors. Um, and
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Ditto.
um, so I've now call it 99%ed Vampire Survivors. Like I've done
Okay.
all the unlocks and secrets.
Okay.
But for some reason, there's like when you look at my collections menu, there seems to be two weapons I'm missing. So
Hmm.
um, I think I know why that is, and I'll kind of explain as I go. So I started doing the emergency meeting DLC because I'd never played
Mm.
through it. Like
Right.
for those who haven't kept up, Vampire Survivors now does a adventures section that you go to that is kind of a limited, fresh game where you have to start unlocking things again.
Yeah, it's like a mini campaign that starts from the beginning, but only has like 6 characters you play as, maybe, and only like I
Yes.
don't know if the main game has like 400 unlockables or whatever. This one will have 50, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a few for the main game, and each DLC has its own. So it's kind of
Right.
the DLC ones all take their giant DLC map and they'll kind of do, like 25% of the map that they'll allow you to roam in a single mission.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Um, and they'll have a little story blurb about what you're doing in the map and, you know, uh, different unlocks for those different levels. And once you get through it, then all that stuff is unlockable in the main game.
Mm.
But you still got to go into the main game and do the purchases and do the weapon
Oh, okay.
combinations. So that is what I think I'm missing from my collections, but I have no idea which things I'm missing.
Interesting. Yeah, this came out on PS4 and PS5 this month, so I've been diving back into this, but from the beginning, and I haven't. There are some trophies in there for completing some of that stuff, like completing Tides of the Foscari adventure one time. But I haven't dove into that yet, but I feel like I've seen some of that stuff of like, oh yeah, when you complete this adventure, then you can buy X, Y, or Z back in your kind of main game.
Yeah. Well, and it also gives you money for your main game. So, like,
Right.
once you complete the adventure. Honestly, like if I were starting the game over and I had access to the adventures, I might hit those up first because you might unlock some stuff faster.
True. Yeah.
But the main, honestly, the problem also with that advice I just gave you is like the best. Um, what was I trying to say? I just completely forgot my train of thought. The best adventures are the DLCs, and the main
Okay.
game DLCs are like they're kind of funny
Mm-hmm.
with some of the text descriptions, but I didn't think they were that great. So that would be the main problem with the advice I
Yeah.
just gave you. Um,
It's been kind of interesting starting this game back over from the beginning on this version because I have all of the stuff now. Because, for anyone that doesn't know, Vampire Survivors costs the lofty amount of $5. And each of the DLC packs, which there are 4 now, because it's Contra, Among Us, and then the 2 other ones, the 2 like non crossover ones, those are all 250 a piece if they're not on sale. If they are on sale, they're like 225. So I scooped up all that stuff to start with. It's been really interesting kind of mixing and matching those because I've played enough of some of these DLC packages to say, all right, I remember how ridiculously overpowered the Among Us like health scanner and the yellow dude is. Like when you combine those two to evolve them, and every time it scans your character to heal them, it upgrades one of your weapons for that run. And then the more you do that, the faster it scans and upgrades. So it's like this snowball rolling downhill. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna dip quickly into this to go get that one. I'm gonna dip quickly into this to go get the roulette wheel in the bottom right corner. That's one of my favorite ones. I'm like race to there to get that to make my runs more interesting. I unlocked something new. I haven't played for a while, so I forgot that they added. Every once in a while, they'll be like, "Oh, here's a new patch. It has a new level. It has 5 new characters. It has 3 new weapons." One of those did uh, an upgrade for random level ups, and if you turn that on when you start a run, every time you level up, the game just picks something for you. So you don't even get the option of like, here are the 3 weapons you can purchase or whatever.
Mm.
It just picks one. It starts picking stuff until you're full, and then that's the run you're gonna do. And I was like, yeah, all right, that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, some neat stuff in here.
They just continue making the game more awesome.
Yeah.
And have you dipped into the Contra one yet?
No, I haven't yet because I I don't know if you've heard, but the number of trophies on the PS5 version is ludicrous. It is 221 trophies, uh, and it's all like Tides of the Voskari has like 3 sections of trophies because there's just too many of them. Like there's no Among Us or Contra trophies, which I didn't realize in the other versions that I guess the tie-in ones don't get trophies. They get the in-game like unlockable challenge things. But it's a lot of it has been me just going down the unlockable menu and saying like, all right, I need to unlock. I don't have all the Arcana unlocked. I don't have all the. I haven't like completed the collection 1.0 yet, which is sort of what I'm working on now. Excuse me, to get that character unlocked. I just beat the quote unquote original final boss, the one with like the bunch of stuff swirling around its head and that like weird swirly level. So like a lot of my time has been doing a lot of that stuff. It's sort of trying while I'm playing this, I'm trying not to be like, I need to unlock everything right now, I need to get the platinum, and I'm like, it's antithetic to what Vampire Survivors is. It's just I'm gonna last 30 or 31 minutes on this thing, hopefully. If not, yeah, man, cool, man, I played for 20 minutes. Vampire Survivors is great. This is great. This game's it's the perfect, like, I'm listening to friends at the table while I'm playing Vampire Survivors. Yeah, you kind of can't complain. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, uh, the Contra DLC is the best thing Vampire Survivors has ever done. It is amazing.
Oh wow.
It is like, honestly, once I start playing it, I'm like, this is the most obvious you got peanut butter in my chocolate situation that never occurred to me. Like,
Right.
you have 2 bullet hell games. Like, of
Right.
course they're going to complement each other. And
That's a good point. Yeah.
of course, Vampire Survivors is going to, monopolize and charm you with everything in there and all the
Right.
ridiculous stuff. And I'm not even much of a Contra guy, but,
Yeah.
they have 20 some odd Contra characters in
Oh,
there.
jeez.
Like, which I didn't realize there were that many, and I'd forgotten about a few of them. I forgot there was like a little floaty robot guy, and
Oh wow.
I can't remember if he's from Super Contra or whatever the PlayStation Contra was.
Super C or one of those versions. I'm
Yeah,
also
I
not a
don't,
big
I don't.
Contra guy, so I can't be like, well,
Yeah,
in 1993, the Lilat Wars. It's just like, nope, nope,
yeah.
nope. That's a
I
different
think
game.
my
No one read in.
my only complaint is there doesn't seem to be any use for the Konami code in there,
That is
which
surprising.
yeah, I feel like I must have missed it or something, but I got everything, so I don't know what else
Hmm.
to look for.
I wonder if that's one of those things where Konami's like, if you're not a Konami published game, you can't use that. Like that's our thing.
Yeah, they do call it the Konami code.
Right.
I associate it, like, to me, it's the Contra code. It's not
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Konami code. Um, in the Contra level, if you remember, like in the original Contra, they have those little wing power-ups that will
Mm-hmm.
float through the screen, so they have those in there.
Oh, that's really cool.
Um, they gosh, they have a lot of Contra bosses in there, and like you'll
Mm.
be in a level and around the 20-minute or 15-minute mark or something, and it'll be like there's an alien that's landed in this sector, and
Oh,
you'll
cool.
run over there to fight just like a huge, like takes up nearly half the screen boss.
Right.
It is it is so fun. Most of the weapons level up with a briefcase, like
Okay.
those little silver briefcases.
Right. That's fun.
It's I did not realize I had as much nostalgia for Contra as I did until I played this, and I think
Yeah.
like if you have spent any time in your youth with a Contra game, it's gonna enamor you.
Okay. I'm kind of excited to eventually get there because I think when the Among Us DLC came out, I think all of us were like, okay, sure, why not? What like Vampire Survivors, you're just doing whatever whatever you want to do
Yeah,
at this point. Sure, why not Among Us DLC? And I thought that one turned out pretty well, especially with how the map, like go push the button every once in a while to stop the map from exploding.
yeah,
And it's like, all right, sure, yeah, okay, yeah. You
yeah.
kind of came up with your fun Among Us twist on this, so I'm happy to hear that um, Contra from a Vampire Survivors standpoint worked out really well. I'm also very tickled that Vampire Survivors, the game that doesn't have a vampire in it, didn't go for the Castlevania DLC. I feel like that would have been the natural one. And they're like, no, we're going to do Contra. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. They're
That
a little
is,
weird with it.
it does make you wonder if like Konami contacted them, or like, you want to do a crossover? Konami thinking they're going to go after Castlevania because they
Right,
already so many of the art assets look like copies of that
for
anyway,
sure.
and
Yeah.
they're like, no, we want Contra.
And they're like, okay, sure. I mean, no one else is doing anything with Contra, so go crazy.
You're
We'll
like
give.
Silent Hill's next. No.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and then like I think it was V Rising got the Castle V Rising and Dead Cells got Castlevania stuff, which
Oh
is
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Dead Cells made sense. I don't
Yeah,
know V Rising.
it's like a
Um,
isometric crafting action RPG vampire game.
mm,
So they kind of already had vampires, unlike Vampire Survivors. But I'm just like Balatro did their crossover DLC that just came out recently. I'm deathly curious to see what Vampire Survivors does for their next, because I feel like it's going to be another like they might do a Dave the Diver because everybody's doing Dave the Diver. But I want them to do like I'm playing a lot of Dredge lately. It's like, all right, here's this Eldritch horror fishing game we're doing a crossover for. It's like, yep, sure, why not? How about No Man's
yeah.
Sky? Yep, we'll do that too. Sure, just get all this stuff in here. Who cares?
It seems like the game I just don't get burnt out on. Like,
Yes.
um, I guess maybe if I had the whole thing at once, and it would be okay. I'm gonna play this for a month and then stop for a couple months and then go
Mm-hmm.
back. But like, it just seems to always refresh itself for me. So
Yep.
I'm in for all the DLCs. Like, it is
Yeah.
always a pleasure. It's the perfect, as you said, sit on the couch, watch TV game.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. I was actually a little worried starting this version. This is the third time I'm starting it back over, and I was like, man, I bet this is the time where the shine is kind of off of it, and it's like, oh, me and Poe doing 15 runs to unlock a whole bunch of stuff. But no, man, it's still really good. I think part of it is, like we've talked about forever, 30-minute run max. Like I probably can sit down and you always look at the clock and you're like, do 30 more minutes. It's like, all right, I got to go do something after this 30-minute run. It's not going to be one of those things where it turns into a 2-hour run out of nowhere. Nope. The longest it's going to go is 31 minutes, and that's exactly it. So I think for me that helps a lot.
even if you put it on unlimited or whatever the heck that version's called,
Yeah,
where
or
it doesn't
endless or
end,
something, whatever they call it.
like you can still quit anytime and you keep
Yep.
everything. Like
Yep.
I think it was super smart of them to do that. Like, it
Yeah.
would have been very frustrating.
Oh, for sure.
But anywho, um, and then I have also been playing Wasteland 3.
Oh,
Um, So I just look browsing through my games. I'm like, what the heck have I not played in a while? What's something I can play while I watch TV? I recently resubscribed to Netflix, so I was catching up on some shows.
Oh, nice.
And I realized, I never beat Wasteland 3, so let's see how this runs on Steam Deck, and it runs really good on Steam Deck.
Oh, nice.
I wish I got a little bit more battery life out of it, like it very much is in the hour and a half to 2 hour camp, but
Oh,
like
okay.
load times are good and all the gameplay is good, and I've only run into one glitch, which kind of didn't even matter.
Mm.
Um, like one of my characters one round did not, like he had 0 action points, but it wouldn't let me end his turn, but there's an overall end the turn button, so I just did that and
Oh,
moved
okay.
on.
That's not so bad.
Um, It is well, okay. I do got to mention one gripe I have with the
Mm.
Steam Deck version is it is stupid complicated to get the game to realize that you are playing with a controller on Steam Deck.
Ah, okay.
Like you start the game and it doesn't matter what mode you're in. It wants you in like it's interpreting you as in keyboard mode. So you got to go into your Steam Deck controller layouts and set it to keyboard, and then you have to go into the options menu and you have to click, change it to controller, and then it does a pop-up where it says press A to switch to controller. So at that point, you got to press the Steam button and go back to the menu and then set it to a gamepad and then go back into the game and then hit A.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
and for some reason, I had to do that like 2 or 3 times, and it hasn't done it to me in a while.
Mm.
But it's fairly annoying.
Yeah.
So, Wasteland 3, I played through all of Wasteland 2 and really enjoyed it. And I kept avoiding it, I think, because I think in my mind it was a more complicated game than it actually is.
Mm.
Like, because it's really, like, like I thought I was going to have to look up, like, decisions of, oh gosh, how's this going to screw me over later in the game, and how's this going to screw me over later,
Oh, sure.
and they may still have some of that, but I'm like 30 hours in, and it seems to me like most of the consequences in the game are pretty immediate. Um, and if it's like Wasteland 2, then like aside from the immediate consequences, it's going to determine who shows up to help you in whatever final battle there is.
Oh, okay.
Um, so if you're not familiar with Wasteland 3, the Wasteland series, the very first one, back in the 80s or 90s, whenever it came out, is what inspired the original Fallout game.
Mm.
It was actually like a lot of, I say inspired, I think it was a lot of the same developers. Um, but you're in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Wasteland 3 takes place in Colorado, so it's more of a nuclear fallout situation.
Mm.
It is very humorous. I don't think there's like a no-kill run you can do, although one of the DLCs has an aspect of that.
Hmm.
You get to make 4 of your characters, and then the other characters that fill out your party are people you run into.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
as you play through the game, you will, have to make moral decisions that you don't have all the information on, and just kind of live with whatever happens, or be neurotic and reload it. Which I'm usually the neurotic reloading type, and this time I'm not. I'm just like, you know what? Let's just let the chips fall where they do, and
Right.
whoever dies dies. Whoever hates me hates me. It doesn't seem like I'm completely screwing myself by siding with this person or this person. So Wasteland 3's deal is someone named the Patriarch is ruling Colorado, and he has 3 children who are all psychopaths, and he is called the Desert Rangers, which is you, in to help with his children. He wants you to obtain them alive.
Hmm.
And as you get in there and you find out more about the Patriarch, you find out he may be just as bad as his children in some ways.
Right.
So it's who sides with who, and there's other stuff, but um, you have like conversation skills. So one of them is called hard ass, and the other is called smart ass. Um, and the other, or wait, no, it's hard ass and kiss ass. Can't
Okay.
remember if they have smart ass in there. I think they do have smart ass, but um, something I forgot about these games when building my characters that almost made me restart the game once I figured it out again, but I just said screw it. Any given character, you really only want to concentrate on four skills, because your other characters will make up the other skills, and it's good to have high points in most skills in the games because you'll inevitably find things that will help you out.
Oh,
Like,
so you don't want to like spread points evenly on every character. You want to have some specializations almost.
yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Like, you want one character with hard ass, one character with kiss ass, one character with explosives, one character with toaster repair, which is a skill in the game. Uh,
If you want to get an idea of how tongue in cheek these games are.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like the toasters are like the really good treasure chests in the game, and they even
Mm.
have like a perk system now. And I can't remember if they had the perk system in the last game or not, but um, once you reach a certain, like, you get a perk every few levels, and the perks available to you are dependent on how high a level you are in your skills. So,
Oh,
like,
okay.
one of the toaster repair skills is like toasters now, in addition to loot, produce toast, which replenishes like four action points in combat, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
Um, and completely heals your character of XYZ, So,
Interesting.
the combat wise, it's very much like kind of an XCOM, but not as hard.
Mm.
Um, you have the half cover and full cover situations, and you have a kind of variety of weapons that you're managing among your crew. And because ammo is limited, that's another reason why you gotta, okay, this guy's my sniper, this guy's my pistols, this guy's my energy weapons,
Oh, sure.
that type of thing. So, um, you also have an animal charm skill,
Ooh.
which is the way it works. You just see an animal in the environment, and then you use it on them, and then they follow you and fight in battle.
Okay.
Um, One of the first animals I got was Major Tomcat, which is a cat with a ranger hat on.
That's great.
Um, he is my favorite. He unfortunately died, and I'm not
Mm.
sure when. Otherwise, I would have gone back for him.
Right.
Um, but like at one point, I think I had like three cats and like a dog and something else follow me. I can't remember,
That's
but
great.
it's very fun. But you got to come to the. I will say right now, as entertaining as that skill is, your animals will die. You just got to either come to terms with it or not do it. But
Right.
um, anywho, like I'm still really enjoying this game. I'm about 30 hours in. I'm doing. I guess I made DLC for this, which I did not expect them to do.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that.
Like In Exile, who makes the games, has always been very anti DLC. For Wasteland 2, they joked that they would have the Red Boots DLC,
Hmm.
um, which I feel like they actually did release a Red Boots DLC, and I can't remember what it did, but it's just a kind of joke thing. So this one they have actual DLC, and evidently I'd bought it at some point, but
Oh. Hmm.
one of the areas is Steel Town, which I've gone to, which kind of has its own mechanics to it. It's a weapons producing manufacturer for the Patriarch, and it's very much the like work hell environment where like all the employees have they get one bathroom break per 8 hours, and
Right.
their places in there are determined by a computational AI, and um, the AI is screwed up and is putting the wrong people in the wrong positions now. So you gotta
Mm.
get in there and fix things. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the DLC, honestly. It is giving me some nice gear, but
Mm.
like I don't know if I actually like playing the DLC. Like the more I play the DLC, the more I wish I was kind of in the main game. But
Oh, sure.
uh, I don't know. It's probably fine. I still like this game. I'm probably going to finish it, but I don't know how long I have. I don't like. I think the hardest part, like about doing this show, is I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend it. Like,
Oh, sure.
it's a cool game with a lot of cool aspects, but it's also like in some ways like so like it's not particularly challenging.
Mm,
You aren't like as long as you haven't screwed up how you build your guys point wise, like you're kind of just gonna roll over most of the battles in the game.
sure.
Like your characters can die, but it's pretty easy to bring them back. But also at the same time, I guess that could also be a selling point if you just want a cool nuclear. Let's roll over some dudes and
Yeah,
explore a apocalyptic wasteland, and that's cool.
that's true. Yeah.
I do like they have like a world map thing where you have a vehicle, and that's kind of a cool aspect because you're just kind of driving around Colorado, and the random encounters will be like things you can see on the map. Like, oh, that's weird. There's a building on fire over here. Let me go over to this, and
Okay, so it's not like
it'll.
Fallout 1 and 2 where it's like you ran over a tile with your car and here's a special event.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
well, it does do a little bit of that, but not
Okay.
much. Mostly, it's here's a gas station on fire. Here's a someone set up a tent. Oh, it's a traitor.
Gotcha.
And you have certain skills that'll help you navigate some of those, like especially the ones where it's oh, you just randomly walked in here. You can't see, what you've tagged onto, but it's like, oh, you just encountered a bunch of Liberty's forces fighting robots. Liberty's one of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you do? And if you have the survival skill leveled up high enough, then you can probably just avoid the whole thing and not deal with it.
Oh, interesting.
Um, but like, you also probably want the experience. So like, if you have your sneak skill up, then you can probably start combat without actually like it'll enter you in the combat map, but combat won't be started yet. So you can try and
Uh,
position your guys. Like that said, it can be pretty frustrating trying to position your guys in that scenario.
yeah.
Um, like you can control your individual characters and move them around, which is helpful, but sometimes you position one or two guys and oh great, one of the enemies just walked a certain area that you didn't realize they're going to walk and combat started and that was just a big waste of time.
Mm,
Why didn't we just go in shooting? So most of the time in that situation, I will immediately just find my sniper and then find the closest guy to shoot and then start combat that way.
right.
Um, but it's a pretty cool game, and I can't imagine it costs much right now.
Right.
But it's definitely not a game for everyone. So take it or leave it. I like a lot of the stuff in Exile's done, but they've also done some pretty bad stuff too.
Yeah.
Like the 2008 Bard's Tale, for instance, or the honestly that new Bard's Tale wasn't very good either.
Yeah.
Um, but the Wasteland stuff at least has a lot of tongue in cheek to it, um, and is enjoyable. And I have no idea how. Like I'm 30 hours in. I have no idea how much longer I have left. I'm
Sure.
guessing I have like 10 to 20 hours at most. But
Pretty
uh,
meaty game.
yeah,
Yeah.
that could also be wrong. I feel like Wasteland 2 was like a 70-hour game or
Oh,
something.
wow.
So I have no idea. But I don't know. I like it. It's I'm guessing they've patched everything they're going to patch, and it runs pretty good right now. And
Nice.
I bet it runs pretty good on consoles. So
Yeah, it did have a console release. That's right. That's right. I
yeah.
remember hearing that was okay.
So last game, I almost don't even want to mention it because I barely played it. Is I started Near Replicant,
Okay.
um, and this is probably due to me being like I really don't not feeling the Steel Town DLC, and I am almost nowhere near Replicant. Like you start the game, it immediately gives you three or four skills that you got to learn. Where you're fighting these guys, it's a pretty easy fight, and then you complete that area, and then it's like 1,200 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up and hey, look, my sister's been has she been sick for 1,200 years? Because it seems like she's been sick for 1,200 years. Um, but also you don't have any of your skills, so I have no idea. So maybe I misread it. Maybe it said 1,200 years earlier and I didn't realize it.
I
Um,
remember that intro because I remember being in the like snowy area. I also when this came out on the 360, I bought it, and I remember the kind of bombastic expletive filled intro where I'm like, all right, sure. And then you go through that kind of snowy area thing, and then I remember it saying something about 1200 years, and I was
Yeah,
always figured that was one of those things where it's like 30, 40 hours into the game, you'd be like,
yeah,
oh, 1200 years, right, gotcha. I never got to that point, unfortunately.
yeah. That's kind of what I figure will happen. But also, like, I beat Nier Automata, so they may just never explain
Right.
it.
And like how much
No.
of those two games tie into each other is something I was always curious about.
My team lead at work says like they do have some tie-in.
Oh,
Like
okay.
they have like I think it's the it's been so long since I played Nier Automata, but they have like a redhead lady or a set of redheaded twins or something like
Oh
that
yeah.
I think they are from this game.
Oh, okay.
But I could be wrong. Like combat wise, this is kind of near Automata in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Like you that intro mission has the little floaty book that kind of does things for you. And if you're watching the video version of this podcast, like you're seeing like the overhead shots and stuff, and they do all the same kind of things where you're in a 3D environment and suddenly you're just they're giving you the side scroller view or the
Right.
top down view, and I've not gotten to any of the dungeons yet. I kind of just completed the first gimme missions, the go get me some mutton and some medicine herbs, and uh but I'm also playing this on Steam Deck, so
Oh,
and
sure.
it's working pretty well, honestly, and
Nice.
it looks pretty good on there too. So no complaints. But I have not, that's all I've done in it, and considering I just keep starting these games and then quitting midway through, we'll see what I do. Um,
Yeah.
so that is all I've been playing.
All right. Where's my first video here? I made it a little bit further in Dragon Quest IV. Um, I finished all of the intro chapters. So you get that like prologue chapter, and then you get the couple of chapters. It's chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're doing the little intro stories with the party members, and I'm now on to chapter 5, where your main character is now all grown up, sort of turned loose onto the world after a genuinely heartbreaking scene. Like in the way that only Dragon Quest can do, where it's like, oh, this game is great. Anyways, misery. It's like, oh no. Um, and now I'm starting to gather a lot of those party members as I go. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I have put this down for the moment, but I've kind of put it on the back burner right now. Um, I do really like it, but I feel like um, I kind of didn't super click with the intro chapters, except for the shopkeeps one. That one was definitely an outstanding one. But so much of it is it's really good, and it definitely plays like a really great Dragon Quest game. But I've kind of this year's been had a lot of JRPGs in it, and I don't feel like I'm burnt out on JRPGs, but I feel like I'm getting close this year. So I'm sort of trying to take it a little bit easy on myself, because there are still like Metaphor Refantasio or whatever that game is called. Like that
Yeah,
still hasn't even come out this year. Like there's still a bunch of JRPGs to come out this year that um, I was largely playing these beginning Dragon Quest games to figure out um, like how cool Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 are, and like how they all kind of connect to each other. And I found that out, and I was like, you know what? That is really cool. I can't wait for the remake that comes out in November. So like, it's a lot of like, well, I could just also play the Dragon Quest 3 remake that comes out in November as well. And
yeah.
I'm sort of feeling that pull again to say like, hey man, it's all cool. Just play 11. It's only like 130 hours. Just go play that. And it's like, no, it's so good. I never finished it, and I know it ties into like all of these other Dragon Quest games, but stop, Stop. I'll get to you eventually. Um, so Dragon Quest 4 is still really good. Um, it is also a little hard because I feel like I really liked 3. So coming into 4, especially on different hardware, because I'm playing the DS version, is a little bit different. But so far it's good. I'm enjoying it. Next up, Destiny 2. Um, I don't want to talk about this too much, but the Act 3 of Episode 1 is out now, so it's kind of the last 3 weeks of story for Episode 1. And as part of it, a new exotic mission got released, Encore, which is actually when these exotic missions come out, usually they are like hidden behind something, or you gotta finish a bunch of quests or to unlock it, or do like find somewhere hidden out in the patrol and investigate these 7 things. This one was just talk to the vendor for this season. Here you go do the mission. So I wasn't wasn't really prepared to do it, but thankfully it is easily soloable. It's not as hard as some of the other missions in past years have been, which is pretty great. And it's a cool mission. There's a lot of it's a very, very big mission. You're going through really, really big environments and really kind of big twisty turny rooms, which I really appreciate them doing something a little different. And so far it's been pretty neat. The weapon that got released with it is Choir of One, which is a auto rifle, but instead of it using primary ammo or kinetic ammo, whatever they call it now, the white ammo, it uses special ammo, which is more limited, but special weapons usually hit harder. And this gun hits like a truck, which is so far pretty interesting. When you aim down sights, it kind of acts like a normal auto rifle. When you are shooting from the hip, it actually shoots out this kind of 5 bullets in a plus shape that sort of spread out over time like an enemy shot does, and that hits real hard. So it's kind of interesting to see them releasing something that is way more potent than we usually get. Because usually a lot of these exotic missions are like, ooh, it's a glaive. No one's using glaives. And it's like, here's a sword. No one's using swords. Stuff like that. So it's kind of neat for them. And they've announced that they're gonna nerf it a little bit because it kind of came out of the gate a little too hot. But thankfully they're like, we're not gonna patch it until episode 2, which comes out in 6 weeks or so. So they're kind of like, just have fun. Enjoy your time with it. So that's been kind of nice.
That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and the story stuff they're doing is so far has been pretty interesting. I know a lot of people's question has been after the final shape, where we kind of dealt with the witness who wanted to not really destroy, but kind of solidify the entire universe. Like, how do you create another villain after that? And I feel like they've done a pretty good job of doing that this time, of creating somebody who feels significantly different. We still have, I think, 1 more week of story to go, so we'll see how they kind of wrap it up here coming next week. But I've been pretty happy with it so far. I think the regular Destiny complaints are still valid, and I think the switch from, now that we're almost done with this, the switch from seasons to episodes hasn't really meant a whole lot from a player's perspective. Bungie has said that from their perspective, it eases development a little bit, because instead of having 4 3-month seasons, you're going to have 3 4-month episodes. So development is a little bit easier on them, which thankfully it is, because thanks to Pete Parson, he laid off like 40% of the studio. So they're working with less than they had before, which still sucks. just to make that clear. Um, but yeah, Destiny continues to be really great, and I really appreciate this kind of 3 week on, 3 week off cycle they've been doing lately. I know they're going to play with it a little bit here for the next episode, but I've been playing a lot more stuff because I'm playing for 3 weeks, kind of heavy, and then for the other 3 weeks, I might be wrapping stuff up here and there, but I'm kind of largely not playing, and I'm playing a whole bunch of other stuff. And for me, because I want to play as many things as possible while still doing everything in Destiny. Those are often uh, at odds with each other. So as someone who likes to do that, I appreciate that this feels way better now. And I understand that for most of the Destiny community, they'll never be happy. So, like, a lot of this change has been frustrating, but, like, there are hundreds of incredible games out there that you have never heard of or played. Games easing up the content treadmill like this is a really perfect way for you to check out a lot more cool stuff. So, more people should take the opportunity that's presented to like just try that cool game that you never played before. Like, it's probably on Game Pass or something. Like, go check it out. So that's cool. I've been happily enjoying that. Last game I tried here, because I realized I hadn't played a ton of RPGs this month, and I've been seeing a ton of stuff about this game, Arco, ARCO, that just came out, I think, this month. It's very new. It's a Mesoamerican tactical strategy RPG. So it takes place in that kind of deserty southwestern area, and features a lot of the like the first act or chapter of the game largely is a tutorial chapter about here's the combat, which I'll get to here in a minute, and kind of the storyline and how you make decisions and how your decisions affect the story and things like that, and how you go do side quests and stuff like that. It was fairly short, and I've only played that one because I kind of wanted to get my feet wet. And when it said, like, when you finish the chapter, it actually gives you the option to continue or take a break. Those are your two options in the menu, which I think are pretty cool. This game is pretty interesting because it's not really... It's an action game and a turn-based tactical RPG at the same time. So you are kind of making decisions when you're out and exploring and talking to people, and the game says it never really came up in the first chapter unless I made like a massive mistake. None of your story decisions really came up or anything. But this game is really interesting in it flips between when you move, the enemies move at the same time. And you can move pretty freely, but then when you stop, you're going to make your decisions on, are you going to move, or are you going to use a skill, or are you going to shoot your bow, or are you going to try and punch them, things like that. One of the things that is still tripping me up about this game is when you go to make a movement, it will draw a line from your character about here's where you're going to move and here's your movement range. It also has a range for where the enemies are going to move as well. It'll show kind of like a path for where the enemies are going to go. You can actually bend your movement path. So when you draw the line, you can actually hold... For me, I'm playing on PC, so it's like the A button on the controller. This is also out on Switch. You can actually bend your movement paths. So instead of going in a straight line, you're going to kind of curve in like a half circle to go around maybe whatever bullets the enemies are shooting at you. So
Hmm.
it turns into this kind of half avoidance thing between turns, and then at least in the intro you're kind of taking pot shots at the enemy and running away more than you are doing a straight up attack. um, I found the tutorial stuff pretty frustrating because if you're fighting like your training enemy and you need to do maybe 3 hits on them, if they do 1 hit on you, you lose and you have to start the whole training section back over. So
Hmm.
once I got into the game itself, I sort of understood why they did that, because um, you only really have 3 health, so taking a hit is really not going to work for you in general. So you really have to avoid, like, your paramount thing is you really need to avoid stuff. So it really did prep me for doing that stuff, but in the moment it's like, oh my god, okay, I got 2 hits on this dude out of 3, and then I got hit seemingly out of nowhere, and now I have to start all the way back over to actually get 3 hits, um, which was pretty frustrating. But once you get into the main game, I felt like it kind of turned out to be a little bit smoother than that. So I I'm pretty happy with how this game is going so far. Stylistically, I think it looks really cool. Soundtrack is really, really good. Um, and there's a lot more story in here than I was expecting there to be. I wasn't expecting there to be a kind of decision making element to it. Um, and I spent, I don't know, maybe an hour long on the first chapter or so, and it ended um, a lot more brutally than I was expecting it to. This was not the happy story of Takeo and his family. That it ended um, pretty
Hmm.
terribly, but in an interesting way, because it was a lot of like uh, the basic gist of it was, he and his family were going to go to the sacred tree to make their yearly offerings. Tree looks incredible, like this really fantastic pixel artwork. Um, but they noticed that there are strangers near the tree, and they're saying like, all right, we're a couple days out from the tree, we're going to hang out here for a couple days and try and figure out what they're doing, but we're really going to avoid them. Like, nobody needs to go near them, nobody needs to bother them. That's, you have to stay here. Of course, you being the main character, you don't listen to that at all, and you go find out who they are. It turns out that looks like they're secretly oil drilling, and when they find you and they find your family, they find your camp, they have to wipe you guys out because you found their secret oil drilling. Um,
Ooh,
and once they do that, it's like, chapter 1 done. Let's go on to chapter 2. And I was like, oh
man,
boy, okay, well, that's sure, man.
man.
Yeah. So, um, but so far it's been really great. I've liked a lot of the writing. There's some writing in there where your character goes by himself to give an offering to the tree, that I thought was um, well written and poetic in a way that we really don't usually see in a lot of games. So I'm really curious to see where this one goes, because the only thing I have heard about this game in the last 2 weeks or so was, hey, do you like indie games and you want to play an indie game that nobody else is playing and everybody should be? You should check out Arco. And I was like, well, dang, that's a pretty good review. Like, we should, maybe I should check this guy out. I think it was 25 bucks on Steam, which isn't too bad. And like I said, it's also on Switch. But I, I I'm always worried about Switch game performance, so I figured, okay, I'll just buy it on PC. I'll play it through my Steam link, and that will be a likely a better experience than playing it on the Switch. So Arco seems really cool. If you're gonna go play it, and you might be frustrated by the tutorial like me, stick with it. It's not as long as it seems like it is, but it's gonna you gotta you gotta make sure that you get that combat down pat. So go check that out, Arco. Let's do releases here real quick. We don't really have any news stories, so we'll knock some of these out. Vampire the Masquerade Reckoning of New York comes out on the 10th. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, Switch, and PC. This is developed by Draw Distance, who did the other two World of Darkness visual novel games. We played Coteries of New York was the name of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one. This is the third one. I don't remember what the second one was. I don't think I played that one.
I know I own it because they have a nice, like, buy all the vampire stuff for X amount of money that goes on sale every year.
Yeah, I am really curious to see what this one is, because we maybe sort of infamously really loved Coteries of New York until that last 5% where the game kind of tripped over itself.
I just noticed a character from that game in this trailer that's playing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's nice to see they're kind of keeping the same art style that I thought was so strong in the first one, and it looks like they've had a little bit more time to kind of make that stuff even stronger. So this is cool. I might just check this out, because we don't get a lot of visual novels that are kind of different like this. So it might be neat.
I keep meaning to go back and play the second one, and I always forget about it. I've heard the second one does not do the thing we all hated on the first one. I mean, how could it?
Right. Oh, man, that first one was so good for almost all of it. Next game here, Persona 3 Reload Episode Igus comes out on the 10th. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC. This is what used to be called The Answer in Persona 3 FES. This is now called Episode Igus. It's largely the same thing. So you're kind of getting the stuck in, never-ending March 31st with everybody, and kind of doing that whole thing. Really curious to see if they address some of the criticisms from the original Answer stuff of, like, boy, I'm doing a lot of dungeon crawling in this for almost no story stuff. That kind of feels unbalanced.
I remember the boss in this one being super hard too. I remember that being a frustrating thing. I will not be playing this. I read some reviews on it, and it sounded like it's mostly the same. And I can't remember. I made some comment on one of Atlas's posts on Instagram that I don't know. I was just being a snarky fan, I guess. I don't remember what I said. I think I said I hope it's better than the original. I didn't enjoy the original.
Right.
And I got a lot of real negative responses to that, and I probably just need to delete the comment, because I get like a notification every other month. It's like, I just don't care, guys. Like,
also, like, the original wasn't that good. Like, you're sitting over there speaking truth. Like, I love Persona 3. That was kind of my introduction to loving the Persona series when it came out on PS2. But the Answer, I don't think the Answer was very good. It was just a lot of... Look, the original Persona 3 had a lot of dungeon crawling in over 100 floors that all looked the same with a little bit color variation. Like, that's Persona 3. And the Answer went even further with that of, like, let's get back into Tartarus, let's do even more. It's like, no, that's not, no thank you. So I think that's a fair
Tartarus
hope
with no social link, really.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, we're gonna strip out the cool parts, sure. So like, if people out there are being like, the answer was great, that's revisionist history. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
Take off those rose-colored glasses. Like, I love Persona 3 too. Like, incredible, but come on, man.
I mean,
So,
like Persona 4's revelation of, oh, they actually just made static dungeons.
right, like
Like,
each one of these dungeons looks different. It's like, yeah, that's pretty big,
yeah,
man. So,
kind of helps quite a bit with the, if you've listened to this podcast, Boston and I, we enjoy dungeon crawlers.
oh,
Like,
for
we have
sure.
absolutely nothing against them.
Yeah.
This just pure Tartarus is not a game for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. What's that spreadsheet dungeon crawler that we played on PS4, PS5? Dungeon Encounter?
Oh yeah, man.
That is, you want to know the brainworms that we have for dungeon crawlers? That's
Yeah.
just an Excel spreadsheet with like the minimum of graphics. That game is incredible.
There are days where I think, have I forgotten enough of this game that I can buy it on another platformer and
Uh-huh.
start over?
Ditto. And then I think, no, I have new games to play. Dungeon Encounter is so good, but you
I know.
just
It'll take over my life for a month if I do it.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, so um I do have to say though, if you haven't played Persona 3 Reload, if you can find it for really cheap, you pick that up. If you really love it, maybe check this out. I'm It's Atlas, so they're probably going to release like a complete package at some point that has at least the game and a download card for this. If hopefully both on the disc, that'd be great. But let's be honest, that doesn't always happen.
Well, and I don't think, man, something else they did that I think is kind of scummy is I don't think you can buy the Aegis DLC separately. I think you have to get the expansion pass
Oh
to
god, that's right, the
get it.
expansion pass. I forgot about that because it makes me mad.
Yes. It's
That's
I
that
don't like
that
it.
sucks. I
I don't
don't put it don't put expansion passes in JRPGs. Those are opposites. Like,
or at least give me the option to buy the individual pieces separately.
yeah,
Like don't
exactly.
like like if I were to play Aegis, I don't care about like the other DLC I think was all like costumes and stuff, and I don't
Costumes,
care.
and like they
Like
usually do like music packs and stuff of like Persona
yeah,
4's battle theme is in Persona 3. It's like I don't want that. I want Persona 3's battle theme because it's incredible. And so is Persona
yeah,
4's, but like that's a different problem.
man.
God, the expansion. Yeah, man. All right. Anyways, that's that's Persona 3 Reload episode I guess. Next up, Final Fantasy 16 comes to PC on the 17th. Um, I'm really curious about how this one is going to go. Final Fantasy 16 hasn't had the warmest of reception for its original release. I still haven't played it. Again, I should play this instead of Dungeon Encounter, but my brain is like, no, get back in the dungeon. So I should probably play this at some point because it's a mainline Final Fantasy game. But I'm really curious to see, especially the mod scene for this game. I've seen a bunch of people I follow on Twitter saying like, look, if someone can put out a mod to kind of smooth out the difficulty peaks and valleys in this game, it sounds like that would be a better experience for them. But you know, we'll see how that goes. But nice to see this coming out on PC. I'm sure it'll look incredible because it already looked incredible on PS5. So, and I forgot until we saw this trailer here that the PC version comes with both DLC packs as well. So
Okay.
yeah, so I didn't hear anything super wild about both of those. It sounded like, it's more of this game. So, I'm not sure what that means to you, but if you liked it, then here's more of it.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, the mod scene for Final Fantasy 15 makes me want to go back and replay that one. And
yeah,
also that, like, I've discussed the ending with a friend, and it really sounds like they changed the ending to that game after I beat it.
apparently they changed like the last quarter of that game of just like, oh yeah, I hated that like chapter 13 or whatever it was with the ring or whatever. because
Oh,
I never finished that. Apparently, they just totally redid that. They're like, man, you guys really hated that. We're totally redoing that whole chapter. It's like,
I
okay.
feel like no, I did really hate that chapter, but I can't remember. I thought I played. Maybe I didn't play a modded version. No, I didn't because
I
I
think
was
you played the
really
original
yeah
release
yeah
before they even
like
had the royal version or whatever they called it.
because I'm pretty sure I got that game when it came out.
I think so.
I'm very curious. Well, anyway, that's our Final Fantasy 16. I've heard such weird things from friends. Like I have friends who don't like Final Fantasy who loved 16,
Yeah.
who are like, "Man, this game's like Game of Thrones," and they're also my Dark Souls friends. So
Right.
it
They
makes
like
me
that
wonder,
low
like,
fantasy theme.
yeah,
Yeah.
like are they aiming at that kind of Western audience? Like
Right.
visually, they kind of seem like they are.
Right.
But they might not do that well. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta play both 15 and 16 at some point. I own both of those. I've started Final Fantasy 15. I don't know how many times and gotten like 4 hours in and be like, all right, I'm kind of enjoying this. A big RPG just came out. I'll be back for you someday. Nope.
I mean, 15's problem is you start out with this great open world road trip game,
Mm-hmm.
and then it turns into this linear roller coaster thing. And like
Yeah,
the
like it's
story
smaller
for
and
it,
smaller.
yeah,
Yeah.
the story for it is massively depressing in a really good way, in my opinion.
Okay.
Although I don't know what that story is anymore, since I I don't know. Maybe after the cast, I say it. Like I don't want to spoil it, but it's just like they
Well, and they also have
they
those like
did what?
4 or 5 different DLC packs that all integrate into the story as well, like with all the different party members'
Yeah.
backgrounds and stuff. And like, oh, this one turns into a third-person shooter. It's like, wait, what?
So
Prompto's in a third-person shooter now?
so I played one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was a really cool idea. Like they have one mission. I don't remember any of the characters' names, but one of the characters you lose one of your bros you lose contact with on a
Mm-hmm.
like a train mission or something like that, and they come back later, and that DLC is what they did during that time period while they
That's
were away
cool.
from the party.
That's cool. See, like
Yeah.
that's the kind of DLC I want more of. Like, all right, anyways, it opens with that cutscene of like, I'll see you guys later, and it's like, all right, now you have like a 5 hour side
Yeah.
mission with this dude, and it catches back up. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. All right, our last release here for the month is Starfield Shattered Space. Comes out on the 30th for series consoles and PC. This is the first story expansion for Starfield. I took me a little bit of digging to kind of figure out what this thing is, other than the bunch of spooky imagery they've had on the trailers that we've seen so far. Um, it appears that this takes place on one planet, as opposed to a bunch of new planets getting introduced. And it seems like they're trying to focus more on uh, having a cohesive story or storyline on the one planet, and trying to make exploration and discovery a little bit more interesting on this planet. So I like a lot of how it looked. I mean, I'm not gonna play it because I didn't like Starfield. I didn't finish that, but like I like a lot of the imagery here of having something a little bit darker and spookier rather than the main game, which was kind of like regular future humanity stuff. So that's kind of neat.
I like the imagery, but this is all them using like weird camera angles in the same
Oh
engine
yeah,
they've used for
for sure.
30 years. So
Right,
like you're gonna get back in and be like, oh right, this barely looks like this. But
right.
um I don't know, man. I have some friends who are staunch Starfield defenders,
Mm,
and maybe someday I go back to this game. It's not gonna be probably this year, but
yeah.
like honestly, almost my thinking. So the way I used to do Bethesda games back, like in the Morrowind days
Mm,
and Daggerfall and all that. Well, actually, no, not Daggerfall, but like with Morrowind and with Oblivion, I waited for them to come out with their we've released all the DLC we're going to release, and here's the package with all the
Yeah, here's
DLC.
our complete Game of the Year edition.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my thinking is I'm going to wait for that well, shoot. I might not get that on Starfield. Now that I'm saying this out loud because Bethesda has said they want their games to have like a 10-year lifespan and they want to support them for longer than they did Skyrim.
Yeah, because I
Um,
was just reading an interview for Shattered Space where they're like, yeah, we want to put out like a story expansion every year for Starfield. And I'm like, I mean, I think it's great that you guys are sticking with it because I Starfield sold pretty well and pushed a lot of Game Pass subscriptions, but like sort of critically did okay. But I feel like a lot of people you had two extremes. You were either like Starfield is perfect. I love Bethesda games. This is everything I want. I spent 300 hours. I'm on New Game Plus 37. Or kind of like us, where it's like I didn't finish it because I kind of got bored. But
yeah.
if you enjoy it, like that's fine. I mean, more power to you.
Gosh, I bet those DLCs never drop in price too if they're gonna do one of these once a year.
Oh yeah, how much is? See, this is the thing about Game Pass and Bethesda stuff. I didn't even think to look at how much the DLC is because to me this is just a Game Pass game. So it's like, oh well, it's just I'll have it because I have it as part of Game Pass.
Man, that's a good point.
So I didn't even think like it's still kind of boggling to me that it's the double edged sword of Game Pass of like, why would you buy Starfield when you can just subscribe to Game Pass for a month or two and then get this and like 200 other games?
Yeah, but you don't, man. Gosh, this could be kind of monstrous because, like, they could do this if they release a $20 DLC every year and they never make
It's
a package game.
$30.
Oh,
Whoa, that's what the Steam at time of recording. That's what the Steam page says is pre-purchase Starfield Shattered Space $30. Oh,
man,
I mean that planet better be huge for almost half of the price of that game.
I mean, as disappointing as Starfield was, their past DLCs have been okay. Horse armor aside,
Right, right. I mean, a lot of the Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 DLC was pretty good.
yeah,
Like Fallout 3 was probably half and half hit and miss, but like when those DLCs hit, they hit pretty hard.
yeah. Like the Morrowind DLCs were really good. The oh, I'm not gonna remember all Oblivion's DLCs. They did
Oh my god,
one that was
Oblivion got
actually
so much.
well, they had one that was like actually theirs, and then they had another one where it was a bunch of small ones that they put together,
Oh yeah,
like
right, right.
Knights of the Nine or whatever the heck they were called.
Right, yeah, whatever that was
Um,
called.
and that was actually pretty good. And then both of Skyrim's DLCs were very meaty.
Mhm.
Um,
That's true. Yeah.
Fallout 4, like they did like 5 DLCs for that, and from what I remember, it was like every other one was like really meaty, and the
Yeah.
middle ones were like equipment packs or
It's
like
here's
crafting packs.
crafting stuff for your buildings. It's like, no, stop. Come on.
I bet they do that with Starfield too. I bet this. But that makes me wonder. Like, is this new planet going to bring a new like? I guess it has to bring a new supply of crafting stuff since
Probably, yeah.
Starfield's kind of all
Well,
about
they
crafting.
came out with a big patch a couple of weeks ago, and as part of that, they also released like an on-planet lander vehicle buggy thing. They're like, make exploring planets faster, and I'm like, I don't think you realize planets have larger issues than just it takes a long time to explore them. Like that's not the
Yeah.
problem here. It's just that there's nothing to explore on them.
Gosh, are they just gonna completely ape No Man's Sky's book? Where like
Apparently, like
here in
now we got a
a couple
mech.
of years, now you can build a mech.
Yeah, like No Man's Sky just put fishing in it. So like, do we have the countdown for when fishing is in Starfield? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I'm curious. This is definitely one of those that I'm gonna keep an eye on for reviews and impressions and stuff, just to see, how big is this piece of DLC, especially for $30. My expectation is it should be really pretty
Yeah.
meaty for that price.
I you know I bet it is. Like I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt
Yeah,
on this one. They have one planet. I feel like Bethesda usually delivers on this stuff. Like a large part of the disappointment, I feel like with Starfield, was that they aimed at like 1,000 planets or whatever the heck,
right,
that they did, and that caused their development to just be completely screwed. So you got a much smaller game than you're used to from Bethesda
right,
due to that, even if it is like mile wise larger.
right, right.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably
Well,
check out Rogue Galaxy first. I'll be honest.
Rogue Galaxy is great. Yeah. All right, that's all of our releases for this month, and that's our episode for this month as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is at campsite.bio/E1M1. It's got all of our links there. Musim, where can we find you online?
So you can find me on my link tree, linktr.ee/John Musum. But the other thing I want to mention is I have a compilation of Tulsa bands coming out. These are 12 local kind of industrial, new wave, dark wave, electro, kind of what have you bands. It's a really good compilation. We are just doing vinyl here on September 21st. So if you are in the Midwest region, come out to Josie Records at 1 p.m. or Starlight at 8 p.m. We will be doing a Bandcamp release after the record, and then after we've recuperated some of our money from the records, we're going to release on streaming. It's kind of the plan. It's
Yeah.
records are expensive, and we made an expensive mistake, is what it comes down
Yeah.
to. But also streaming, you just as much as I just want it like the nice world where everyone can hear everything. I think the current thing that local musicians are dealing with that's kind of counterintuitive is like to build your brand, like streaming is not as important because you're going to get kind
Mm,
of lost in the pool. So
sure.
hopefully we can build these bands up and then release it and then get some, I don't know if we'll get 1,000 listens, but you got to get 1,000 listens on Spotify on a song in a month before they will pay you for that song, and that is
Oh,
per
rough.
song. So that is why we are taking this approach. We'll see if it
Right.
works or not. If it does us any good, who
Yeah.
knows? But
Fingers crossed.
I'll let you know when it's on streaming, and we will hopefully have the vinyl available for ordering not too long after the September 21st release date.
Nice. You can find me at campsite.bio/Jansten, Jansten, and all my stuff is over there. Also, don't forget to check out, if you're still playing Destiny, DestinyEmblemCollector.com. If you want to stay off of the hell site that is literally any social media, you can now sign up for updates to deck on email. And that's free and spam free because it's just whatever I send to it. So go check that out over there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.